Hey guys, welcome to the It's Just Wrestling YouTube channel. My name is Justin. Today I'm going to go over what happened in the week of wrestling. We're going to start off with Elimination Chamber and make our way to NXT. So let's dive into it because there's a lot to talk about. As far as Elimination Chamber goes, I went 6-1 in my predictions, which is pretty cool, but the overall pay-per-view was pretty predictable. We're going to start off with the kickoff match, which was the Cruiserweight match between Buddy Murphy and Akira Tozawa. Really fun match. If you watch 205 Live, these dudes put on a great show every single time they are on the pre-show, every time they have a match on the pay-per-view. Pretty much what you expect. If you know these guys, fantastic showing. Buddy Murphy picks up the win, which I felt like there was never really a chance of Akira Tozawa winning. I think they're going to have Buddy Murphy hold the title until WrestleMania, and he'll drop it there. But yeah, Buddy Murphy picks up the win with Murphy's Law, and we're going to jump into the main card of Elimination Chamber now, and it starts off with the tag team Elimination Chamber match to crown the first ever WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. This match was really good. It did rely on a lot of spots, and since there's so many bodies in the tag team Elimination Chamber match, some of it was a little bit like stilted, where like people were just there, kind of. But I think that's just more of the fact that there's more bodies than more on the fact that there's just the people involved. There was a really good showings by the Iconics, the Riot Squad, Liv Morgan and Sarah Logan, and Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Those three really had a good showing, and they had to because they had to. Not that they've been booked bad. Well, Riot Squad and the Iconics have been booked fairly bad, but the fact that they show that they can actually perform, it's a really good thing. But the right team won. It was Sasha and Bailey won. They defeated the last team of Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. After really good back and forth action between them, there was a lot of good near falls. Sasha ended up getting the win with a modified bank statement, which was really cool. But the right team won. These are your top two baby faces in the women's division, at least on Raw anyways. The tag team scene, besides Becky Lynch, this is how you legitimize new titles. This is how you get eyes on the new titles. And with what they said on Raw, we'll see what how it ends up. But high hopes for this tag teams division. The next match we get into is a Smackdown Tag Team Championship match. It was Miz and Shane versus the Usos. This is the only match I got wrong in my predictions. The Usos actually won this match. I had them losing. I had Shane and Miz winning, but the match itself was a typical Shane match. You have Miz making the hot tag, Shane going to work. He did his whole table spot. He did his whole coast to coast spot. He went for a second coast to coast, but ended up getting hit with a super kick. The match itself wasn't crazy. It wasn't nothing over the top. But the Usos pick up the win with the roll up. Miz hit the skull crushing finale on one of the Usos. I can't remember, but they end up he goes for the pin, and the Uso ends up reversing it into his own pin for the 3, and the Usos are your six-time tag team champions. A lot of people are wondering why they did this. There have been a lot of rumors their contracts are up and WWE wants to keep them from leaving, so they supposedly put the belts on them. There was a lot of discussion of what happened with Jimmy and what happened to with his arrest and stuff like that. But these are top people in their tag team division. WWE doesn't want to lose them to competition. Again, that free agency pool is so big with AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. Like, the Usos could fit anywhere, and who wouldn't want to see a Young Bucks versus Uso match? Because I would. The next match on the card was the Intercontinental Championship Handicap match. This was Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush versus Finn Balor, so it was a 2-on-1 match. But if Finn Balor could pin Lio Rush or Bobby Lashley to win the title. The match wasn't anything special. It went as kind of how you predicted it would go. Lio Rush was overly confident. He would tag himself in without Bobby asking for the tag or anything like that. So at one point, Balor was able to take out both Lio Rush and Bobby Lashley. And since Lio Rush was the legal person in the match, he grabbed Lio Rush, threw him back in the ring, hit the coup de grace for the win. And Finn Balor is your Intercontinental Championship champion. And yeah, he it's good to see Balor with a belt because he deserves it. He deserves some kind of belt since he's not going to be pushed in the main event scene for a while. And hopefully we get some really good feuds out of this, and it builds up Finn Balor to be even better. The next match we go into is the Raw Women's Championship match, and I hated this match for a specific reason because it was Ronda Rousey versus Ruby Riott, and this was just literally a less than 2-minute squash match, and it shouldn't have been. Obviously, Ronda, I never had Ruby winning regardless. Ronda was there. Ronda's obviously going to win. They had to make Ronda look short. I get that, but we already know how strong Ronda is. They could have used anybody else, but this was literally a squash match on a pay-per-view match, but it was just to further progress the storyline of what's going to happen at WrestleMania between Charlotte, Ronda, and Becky. Charlotte was at ringside. After the match, she was in the ring talking to Ronda, talking her stuff to Ronda, and then Becky comes out, suspended Becky Lynch comes out on crutches in a Kill Bill inspired suit. She hobbles into the ring. She throws a crutch to Charlotte. Charlotte catches it, and then Becky takes the other crutch and just hits her with it, and starts beating her down. She offers a crutch to Ronda so she could get revenge on what happened at Survivor Series with Charlotte and the kendo stick, and it looks like Ronda's about to do it, and then Becky hits Ronda with her crutch and starts beating the hell out of both of them. Security comes out finally and escorts them out, but it was weird. And I don't know if because of how I felt about with Ruby Riott, but also the fact that the storyline is that Becky is suspended and that literally she walked through the crowd past the security guard and it did nothing, and they waited until she hit Ronda for security to come out to escort her. So a lot of it didn't fit, but it was very Stone Cold-esque. It did leave a little, like, for me it was more like, hey, why are you doing this to Ruby? Because Ruby deserves better. She's actually really good. I'm a fan of Ruby Riott, but yeah, it is what it is at this point. The next match is the no disqualification match between Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin, which to me was my least interested match. I think it went as typical as you could expect it to go between the Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin match. Long story short, there was some good spots, but at one point when Braun was about to get the win, you hear Drew McIntyre's music come out that caused a distraction for Braun Strowman. Bobby Lashley ends up coming out, and all three of them jump Braun Strowman, and they end up triple power bombing him very Shield-esque through 2 tables. And Baron Corbin picks up the win. I had Baron Corbin winning by interference, and that's exactly what happened, but with the ending of this and what happened on Raw, just didn't make sense, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And then the main event was the Elimination Chamber match between the new Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, and Samoa Joe. This was easily match of the night. Anybody who knows is that the storyline has been pushing Kofi Kingston. That's exactly what they did in this match. It was the last two between Daniel Bryan and himself. Fantastic showing by Kofi Kingston. The crowd just kept going on, and they were firmly behind him, and they kept growing behind him. Unfortunately, it wasn't his time to win. Daniel Bryan retained his championship, but at the end of it, they just showed Kofi Kingston get a standing ovation, being surrounded by his New Day tag teams members. So it was a really great showing overall. Kofi Kingston is on a really, really high note, and they should be riding this wave until, with what happened on SmackDown, they are riding the wave to Fastlane, which was cool. The next is the WWE Raw review. Now, a little bit about this match is the fact that this match really did suffer from, this show I should say, suffered from a lot of things, from some weird booking decisions, and Raw, the crowd itself was just horrible. They were in Lafayette, Louisiana, and it started off with Triple H coming out, bigging up the fact that DX is going into the Hall of Fame along with Chyna, and it's cool to see Chyna finally in the Hall of Fame. A lot of people feel like Chyna should be there on her own, and it's true, but it's also good to see her at least get inducted. Her family's happy that she's getting inducted finally, and yeah. But then he surprises everybody with 4 NXT call-ups, and these NXT call-ups are Aleister Black, DIY, and Ricochet. Top 4 guys in NXT right now. Arguably, if you want to put Adam Cole in there, Velveteen, you probably can, but these 4 have been making waves like for years now. Well, DIY especially, and Aleister Black for about a year and a half, and Ricochet just got there about almost going on a year, and he's already just crazy. The call-ups themselves, they were weird as well. Supposedly rumors going around that it was more Vince than Triple H, that Triple H didn't really know, and Vince needed these top 4 guys, and he just kind of made the decision to pull them up. And with what we're going to talk about on NXT, I'll get into that more later. But after he finishes saying that these 4 NXT call-ups will be in action tonight, he makes the match between Braun Strowman and Baron Corbin again in a tables match. So that's our first match. I'm not going to talk too much about this match just because, again, it's kind of like the match itself wasn't like, the action itself wasn't bad. Like, you could, they tried to make it interesting, but just the crowd was dead. Baron Corbin picks up the win. Braun Strowman picks up the win by driving Corbin through a table. The only thing about this match is that it was weird because you had the interference by Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre in this and the Elimination Chamber match, but not in this match, and there was kind of no mention of them, really. And to see that happen and for them not to interfere, there's no continuity there. It was weird, but yeah. The next segment, I should say, is Paul Heyman coming out, cutting up promo. He just pretty much says there's a video package, and it's pretty much Paul Heyman narrating the accomplishments of Brock Lesnar, pretty much saying that Seth Rollins doesn't really have a chance. The next match is there's another segment. It's Finn Balor comes out, cuts a babyface promo to a dead crowd. Nobody's reacting to anything. He's cut off by Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. And this is another weird thing because Finn Balor won the Intercontinental Championship match at Elimination Chamber, and at the end of that match, Bobby Lashley ends up attacking Lio Rush because he cost him the title, and it was just, and now they're teaming up to beat down Finn Balor. Ricochet comes out, makes the save, and you end up having a tag team match between Finn Balor, Ricochet versus Bobby Lashley and Lio Rush. Now, this match was to really showcase what Ricochet can do, and he got a lot of offense in. Again, this crowd did not pop for anything. They barely made any sound at all. It was sad. But again, Ricochet still looked good because he got most of his offense in, and he gets the win by hitting the 630 on Lio Rush. It was just weird that like they're bringing up these NXT call-ups. If it was Vince obviously is on record saying that he doesn't watch the product too much of NXT, so the fact that like he doesn't watch it and then he's bringing up these people in such a weird crowd like Lafayette, Louisiana, where I guess it's not that wrestling oriented, I should say. I guess you need to bring these people up in more smarkier towns, places like New Orleans, like Smackdown was, or Chicago, or NXT, New York, and like more of these crowds that know about NXT and the people who wrestle there. But yeah, we'll get into that once we get into a little bit later. Finn Balor and Ricochet pick up the win, and we go into another tag team match, and this is Lucha House Party versus Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Now, this match is nothing major. The whole storyline is that Zack Ryder is trying to help Kurt Hawkins get a win after losing so much. But unfortunately, that doesn't happen in this match. Lucha House Party wins. Then there's a really random segment with Lacey Evans and Heavy Machinery doing a catwalk. I don't know what they're doing with Lacey Evans. There's a lot of rumors going around that they're trying to make her one of the tops. After WrestleMania, they're trying to make her one of the top wrestlers in the division, for the women's division. So you can't do that by just having her do a catwalk, and Heavy Machinery doing the same thing. I don't know if she plans on managing them or what, but it was just weird. But yeah, enough of that. Next match we get is one of the NXT call-ups. It's the NXT DIY versus the Revival, and anybody who's watched NXT knows that anytime you have DIY and Revival in a match, it's going to be a good match, and this was easily match of the night. It's weird the fact that they have DIY as baby faces because the storylines in NXT are completely different, so we know about that. Which is, again, it's I don't get it. I really don't. But it seems like there's no continuity between what happens on NXT and what happens on the main roster. So whatever happens in NXT, whatever storylines are going, if they're calling people up and they're having them both work both shows, there's nothing there. They're not going to mention or continue that storyline or anything like that. The match itself was obviously really good. Again, this crowd was completely dead for that too. But DIY pick up the win in a non-title match against the Revival. I guess it's hard to choose because you have new call-ups that you have to make look good, but you also, the Revival just won the tag team titles, but I had them to lose so quickly, even though if it's a non-title match, kind of stints their progression, but it is what it is. The next match is a squash match between Drew McIntyre and Dean Ambrose. This was literally just like a 3-minute match. Drew hits the Claymore kick for the win, and that's it. I guess since Dean Ambrose is leaving in April, not renewing his contract, it seems like they're just going to feed him to people and put people over, it seems like. The next match is another NXT call-up, and it's Elias. Elias is doing his shtick, and he's interrupted by Aleister Black. Aleister Black is one of the characters in NXT that has one of the best gimmicks and wrestlers, and his character is just awesome. This match didn't really do a good job of portraying him or showing what he could really do, because there was a lot of rest holds and stuff like that, but he got some of his offense in, it should have been if anything, it should have been a squash match. It should have been this, because Elias is more of a comedic gimmick where he gets cheap heat or cheap pop, and he's more for a little palate cleanser, whereas Aleister Black could be a main eventer. This match, they didn't really do a great job of showing what he could do again. He got some offense in, but he should have handled Elias a little bit better. Or they should have booked this match a little bit better. Aleister Black wins with a Black Mass spinning heel kick for the 3, and it was good. But again, the crowd just was not into anything at all this night. Next we go into the main event, and the main event is a rematch between Ruby Riott and Ronda Rousey. This is the match that should have happened, in my opinion, at Elimination Chamber, because Ruby got a hell of a lot more offense in than she did in an Elimination Chamber match, and I get it. You making Ronda look strong at a pay-per-view, cool, but don't do it at the expense of one of your more talented female competitors. She got a little bit more offense in. Ronda still won. Ronda still looked tall, because after the match, the Riot Squad came in to try to jump her, but she took them out. So Ronda stood tall, looking strong. The match itself was okay, but again, at least Ruby got a little bit more offense in. You could have easily had that match at Elimination Chamber. So that was Raw. Raw was really stinted by the crowd and the booking, because there was nothing set up for the next pay-per-view. There was nothing really feuds that were progressed besides Bobby Lashley and Finn Balor. So we're gonna jump into SmackDown. SmackDown starts with Shane coming out, explaining that DIY, Aleister Black, and Ricochet, the NXT call-ups that were on Raw, will be in action tonight on SmackDown as well. So after that, Miz comes out and apologizes to Shane about losing the titles at Elimination Chamber, and then the Usos come out. They have a little promo back and forth, and eventually a rematch is made between the two teams. So we have Shane and Miz versus the Usos at Fastlane. So you already have SmackDown continuity-wise and progressing storylines into the pay-per-views way better than what Raw did. The first match, official match of SmackDown, was Aleister Black versus Andrade. Anybody who's watched NXT knows that this feud was great. They have great chemistry together. So this was a way better showing of Aleister Black. And both guys look actually strong in this because, one, they have chemistry, and two, the crowd, they were in Louisiana, New Orleans this time. and the crowd was much more excited and know about these NXT call-ups. So the fact that you hear pops for these guys makes it better. It makes the show better. But yeah, both guys look good. Even Andrade in defeat look good because he's that damn good, and Aleister Black is that damn good. So nothing to complain about there. It was a pretty better showing than what they did on Raw with Aleister Black. The next match is DIY versus The Bar. Now, DIY as a tag team in general, you put them up with just about anybody, they're going to have a good match. That's just how good they are, and Sheamus and Cesaro are fantastic as well. The match itself was very hard hitting. There was a scary moment where Tommaso Ciampa hit a sunset flip powerbomb off the turnbuckle on Sheamus, but the landing was really bad because Sheamus landed on Tommaso Ciampa's injured knee that he did surgery on years ago, and it looked really bad. It looked like he might have re-injured himself because Tommaso Ciampa was in pain while he rolled out the ring. But eventually he was good. He actually was able to finish the match and get the win. Actually, he rolled up Cesaro for the 3 count for DIY to win. So it was a nice hard-hitting match, decent tag team match. Nothing major, but nothing nothing bad as well. So yeah, DIY looked good in this again. They're just that damn good. The next match is Asuka versus Mandy Rose. There was Asuka was being interviewed, and Mandy Rose came out and interrupted her, and that caused a match to be started. The match was nothing crazy. There was a nice little knee by Mandy Rose on Asuka. Looked good in this. Was sort of the ending made it weird. So it all started with Lacey Evans coming down and distracting, but since Sonya Deville was outside, you had Sonya Deville stare down Lacey Evans, and Lacey Evans ended up going back. So again, I don't know what to do with Lacey Evans, but okay, sure, whatever. They're just gonna have her, I guess, go ahead and interrupt matches. I don't know. Next is but the match continues anyways, and they end up Mandy Rose ends up faking an eye injury, and this tricks Asuka into going. She ends up tricking Asuka and rolling her up for the 3 count. So my issue with this is that as good as Mandy Rose is getting, she's still not on the level of Asuka, in my opinion. She's gonna get better. Obviously, she has everything. She has the look. She has the power. Like she has a nice finisher and everything. But you keep Asuka away from television 3 weeks. Don't put her in a pay-per-view in the Elimination Chamber match. She's not on television. You keep her away from a pay-per-view, and then the minute you bring her back, she loses. So I'm not really too big on that, and I don't know what they're going to do with Asuka, but they need to do something better. The next match is Ricochet versus Eric Young of Sanity. Sanity's finally back on TV, but it is against Ricochet, and so that means this is pretty much a showcase what Ricochet can do, and it's fine and all. Ricochet wins, hits the 630 on Eric Young and picks up the win, but it's a shame that Sanity is just there to kind of like job to them when they haven't been used so long, and Sanity was always great in NXT. I was there, I think it was TakeOver 3, Brooklyn TakeOver 3, where they won the tag team titles. They were so over. It was great. So the fact that they didn't do this it sucked. The fact that they're not being utilized on the main roster like they should is bad, and they should, because their tag team division needs it. So again, not too thrilled with that, but the main event, we go on to the main event, which was a 6-man tag match between AJ Styles, Kofi Kingston, Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton, Joe, and Daniel Bryan. This match was pretty much a typical 6-man heel versus face dynamic. Heels keeping the baby faces away from the corner, but the real thing was Kofi Kingston and his storyline and what's going on. So long story short, he pretty much picks up the win for his team, but he pins Daniel Bryan. So it's the second time he's pinned Daniel Bryan. He did it at the Gauntlet match, and now he's done it here. So he picks up the win, and this causes Shane to come out and say that the person Daniel Bryan will be facing at Fastlane for the title is Kofi Kingston. The crowd goes crazy, so Kofi Kingston is finally getting his chance at the title after 11 long years and reminding people what he could actually do. So we'll see. I don't think, I think Daniel Bryan's going to hold the title until WrestleMania. There's some rumors about who his opponent's going to be, and it's supposedly Kevin Owens, but we'll see what they do with that. So next we're going to go into the NXT review. This was a fantastic, really great show of NXT. First match you get is Roderick Strong versus Aleister Black. People forget how good Roddy Strong is as a singles competitor and in singles wrestling, because he's so damn good at tag team wrestling as well. And the Undisputed Era are over as hell. This was a really good match. Both people, Roddy Strong actually dominated this match most of the time. Hit some sick backbreakers. He is the messiah of the backbreaker, and he hit some crazy looking ones on the steel steps and on the turnbuckle. And the ending came where he it looked like he was going for the end of Heartache finish, and Aleister Black reversed and hit the Black Mass out of nowhere. So since he hit it out of nowhere, it actually protected Roddy, because Roddy just looked so dominant in the match. But overall, it was just a really fun, hard-hitting opening match for NXT. The next segment we got is Bianca Belair doing a promo. She's pretty much bigging herself up, and how, like, if the ref wasn't knocked out during her takeover match, she would have been the new NXT Women's Champion, which is true, because she hit the KOD and she had the 3 count she had to beat, but the ref was down. She then takes shots at Io Shirai and Kairi, saying how she's not going to let them go over her to just get in the title picture, because she feels like she still deserves it, and she's still the main opponent for Shayna Baszler. I didn't mind this promo at all. I think it was a good heel promo, heelish promo by by Bianca Belair. I think she's gonna be one of the top female in NXT. Once Shayna goes up and Kairi goes up, I think she's gonna be the top one in that division, because they're already building to that, it looks like. The next announcement we get is that the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic is going to be coming back, and they announced the first 4 tag teams, which is Undisputed Era, the team of Fabian Eichner and Marcel Barthel, the Forgotten Sons, and the Street Profits. The next week we're going to get the other 4 tag teams, and there's already, if you like spoilers, there's already spoilers on the tapings of what happened during this whole thing. I'm not going to get into it, but if you want to go check that out, you can just look it up online. Fairly interesting. So the next match we get is Mia Yim versus Xia Li. This match was nothing special. It's more what happened afterwards that really matters. Mia Yim wins with the Protect Your Neck. It's a nice little variation of Eat the Feet, the move that she did before, but except she used her knee now. And it's a nice little reference to Wu-Tang as well, which is pretty cool. So after the match, after she wins, Shayna Baszler and the rest of the 4 horsewomen come out. Maria Shafir and Jessica McDuke. They come out. They jump Mia Yim, and then you see 3 trainees come out, like NXT trainees come out. But she ends up, like, Shayna and the 4 horsewomen take them out, and then they still jump Mia Yim, and then Shayna Baszler hits Mia with her sick knee, and this sets up a match next week between the 2. So that should be interesting. I like Mia Yim. I'm a fan. I think it's good to see her at least get a title match. So at least they could build her up to be the next, or at least not the next, but in that one of the top in that division. The next match we're gonna get into is the main event. It is Johnny Gargano versus Velveteen Dream, and this match is insanely good. This was as good as a TV match could get without, being a pay-per-view esque level match. This match was so good. I just watch it. This is really all I really had to say. There was so much good back and forth. The match started off with it being very technical and Johnny out wrestling Velveteen Dream, because he's better at the technical aspect of it, whereas Velveteen Dream, even though he's good, he's still young. Johnny Gargano obviously has years of experience above him, and it showed with the technical part about it. But Johnny being very emotional, Velveteen Dream hits, slaps him dumb hard. And during the match, after that, like, you see it progress where from technical to very hard hitting, and Johnny reverted back to some heelish tactics that kind of like was stemmed from his feud with Tommaso Ciampa. And during this match, you see actually Tommaso Ciampa in the rafters looking on the match. So it still progressed that whole Tommaso Ciampa Johnny Gargano feud, but still providing a really, really great match between Velveteen and Johnny Gargano. The ending came when Velveteen Dream hit 2 rolling Death Valley drivers on Johnny Gargano, then hit the Purple Rainmaker for the 3. The crowd popped for this. Just watch the match. I don't want to give too much of like the match. I know I just gave the ending away, but the match itself was just fantastic. Like, I had known who won, but I was still popping for the near falls, and still like it overall was just a good match. You really need to see it. As far as the week goes, Elimination Chamber was okay. Besides the 2 Elimination Chamber matches, nothing really exciting happened on Elimination Chamber. Raw, I didn't like too much. I didn't like the way they kind of made the call up so suddenly. I know a lot of rumors saying that it's more Vince than Triple H. Triple H didn't really know about it, so take that with a grain of salt. Smackdown did a way better job of presenting them, as well as progressing storylines into Fastlane, which at least there's continuity there. In terms of storylines, whereas Raw really didn't do much of that besides, Balor and Lashley and Brock Lesnar and Seth, supposedly. So, and then NXT overall was just great, and it does seem like the storylines that happen at NXT are staying the way they are because they have no bearing on what happens on the main roster. So it looks like they're treating NXT as its own brand. It is its own brand at this point, but they're treating it storylines wise as well, that it doesn't roll over to the main roster. So overall, interesting week of WWE. Another thing to note is that TJP, Hideo Itami, and Ty Dillinger have been released by WWE. Hideo and Ty Dillinger both asked for their release, whereas TJP didn't. So that one was kind of a surprise, but it is what it is. So I hope they get to shine out of the promotions. But that's about it, guys. Thank you for everything. Thank you for subscribing, sharing, like. Please comment if you agree. How do you feel about review? What I can change. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.